There's that fanfare we know and love. Hello and welcome to Hollywood Blockbusters. I'm your host, Joe Hollywood, and I am joined by Imaginos Pete,
Hey, hey.
Andrew Walker,
Hello.
and our resident guest critic, Robert Butler. Thanks for coming back to the studio.
Yes, and classing up the joint as you say.
Classing up the joint. That's right.
The entertainment IQ jumps 40 to 50 points minimum when Robert joins us, so this is great. It allows me to coast.
That's right. When Robert's here, I'm afraid to bring up movies like Dumb and Dumber.
Hey, I really like that one, though.
All right. Now, before we get into our main topic today, the film world experienced a major loss a couple of weeks ago. We lost Val Kilmer, who had been battling, I believe, throat cancer for a number of years, and had lost his ability to speak at some point, and finally succumbed to pneumonia, I believe is what the official call was on that. But that was one that was a bit of a gut punch. I've been a fan of Val Kilmer's for decades. I think the first time I saw him in anything was Real Genius way back in the 80s. And he's been in so many great movies, a couple of my all-time favorites. So let's talk about him a little bit. I find it shocking that he's never won an Oscar because he has some Oscar-worthy performances, and there's a couple of performances I think he should have won an Oscar for. The first one that immediately comes to mind is Doc Holliday in Tombstone. What he brought to the table in that film, depicting a guy with tuberculosis, and you see it in his face, you hear it in his voice, but he's still charming and witty and has some of the best lines in that movie. Hey, Doc, you're still around. That's the rumor, And I love the line where he's like, he's so drunk, he sees two of us. He goes, I got two guns, one for each of you. And he has just the best lines in that movie. And most historians say that of all the movies that depict the gunfight at the OK Corral, that was the most historically accurate. And one of my all-time favorite movies, definitely on my 100 favorite movie list. And it was just such a great cast, and loved everything about it. What are your guys' thoughts on Val Kilmer in Tombstone as Doc Holliday? Nick, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true loss. My first encounter with Val Kilmer was Mad Mardigan.
What is that?
Mardigan. In Willow. He was
in Willow. Okay.
He was the fantasy version of Han Solo. He had that charming, I'm the rogue, and I enjoyed him. And then I said, okay, I have to know more about this guy. And then I saw Top Secret.
Oh yeah,
and and that was apparently his first film.
Yeah.
And that's amazing for that being his first film.
Wait, so Top Secret was before Real Genius?
Yeah,
1 year before.
I
believe.
did not know that.
And then does Real Genius. So maybe the people are saying, "Oh man, this guy's gonna get typecast in just comedy roles."
Yeah.
No. His range expanded.
Yeah, Top Gun is one of the all-time great spoofs, and I think one of you suggested that we do a podcast dedicated to movie spoofs and parodies. But yeah, basically, that movie is parodying Elvis Presley movies, where it just breaks into song randomly. And
I mean, you could do I think Robert or George might have said this. You could do an entire show on Val Kilmer.
Oh, sure,
without question. But I even loved his performance in Batman Forever, despite the movie being having its own thing, because it gave a seal kiss from a rose. I mean, even ancillary stuff brings iconic stuff to the forefront. No, it's a true loss. It's when I saw him in Top Gun Maverick, I kind of got the depth of what he was going through.
It was heartbreaking. Yeah. Speaking of Batman Forever, I just rewatched it recently, and in hindsight, it's a tough watch. Because Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey, who apparently did not get along, were just sort of trying to outperform each other. And it was just too much. It was like two people talking to you through a bullhorn. But whenever the movie went to Val Kilmer and Nicole Kidman, that's when I really enjoyed the film. And I loved their interaction and her falling in love with Batman and falling in love with Bruce Wayne, not knowing that they're the same guy. And there are a lot of moments in that film that I like. And was kind of laughing as I was watching it. I'm like, this movie's a lot like Two-Face. There's two sides to it. There's the over-the-top, loud, brash film, but then there's kind of the quieter moments that I really, really enjoyed. And even the addition of Chris O'Donnell as Robin, I thought wasn't, too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the problems with that franchise, and Joel Schumacher in particular, is they just tried to cram so many characters into one film, and it just didn't work in that case. But I thought Val Kilmer made a fine Batman, and I love the Batmobile in that particular movie. As a matter of fact, I've met Val Kilmer twice, or I should say I saw him in person twice. Once was at the Motor City Comic Con, I think it was 2018, and he was behind a curtained-off area so people couldn't stand and ogle at him. So I got in line, got behind the curtain. He's standing there, and I had a die-cast Hot Wheels Batman Forever Batmobile. And so his line in the movie when he's talking to Nicole Kidman's character is, "It's the car, right? Chicks love the car."
Yeah.
So I had written that on a sticky note and handed it to him. And when he looked at it, he didn't want to write that. And he goes, "The line is," and he said it in his, voice as he was struggling to speak. He said, "The line is, chicks dig the car," which is what Robin said later in the movie. And I'm like, you write whatever you want to write. So now I have this Hot Wheels Batmobile signed by Val Kilmer that says, "Chicks dig the car, Val Kilmer." And it's one of my prized possessions. I love it. And then coincidentally, just a few months later that year, he was at the L.A. Comic-Con. He made an appearance on stage at the L.A. Comic-Con. So I got to see Val twice in that one year. But having something Batman-related signed by Val was pretty cool.
I just realized that Joe's stories are like the Curious Case of Benjamin Button when the guy says, the other time I got struck by lightning. Because every time he's like, I met Val Kilmer. I met so-and-so in person. I'm like, God dang.
Or like Forrest Gump, too.
Have you ever met Val, Joe? Which time?
Yeah.
I'm Forrest Gump, man. I'm Forrest Gump.
The third time I met Val Kilmer.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on Val Kilmer and his filmography?
Top Secret is one of those films that I saw when I was pretty young. It was one of the first spoof movies I ever remember watching. I was probably, 9 or 10. It was on TV, and I loved it. I especially love the part where someone throws a grenade in the building. And I don't remember who, but someone jumps on the grenade, and then the other guys blow up. And I'm like, oh, this is genius. And then I never saw Willow, but my other early connection, of course, is Batman Forever. And that was one of those good Saturday afternoon movies that my sister and I would watch all the time.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you on how the movie is very uneven with the villains and then the Batman story.
Yeah, it's like two different movies.
And I haven't watched it in probably 20 years.
This is not Mel Torme.
But and you were talking earlier, I've never seen Tombstone.
Oh, dude.
And I'm going to say this movie, though, and I know it's for sure on two people's top 10 list, but Heat. He was so good in Heat.
Yeah,
every aspect of that movie is great.
Yeah, I recently revisited it, and it was enormously entertaining.
Now, Joe,
what a cast,
did you ever see the MacGruber movie?
I have, yeah.
So maybe that was the last popular movie he did. I don't know. That was 2010.
It's a popular movie.
Well, it wasn't Jurassic Park, but it was.
Andrew, how dare you put MacGruber and Jurassic Park in the same podcast episode?
No,
you keep Jurassic Park out of your mouth.
That movie's great, MacGruber. But no, Val Kilmer and anything that I would catch him in, he was always great. And like you said, he probably should have gotten an Oscar at some point. Did he ever get nominated?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
I'm not sure. I don't think he has.
Oh, my God.
Now, the other role that I think he should have gotten nominated for, even though the movie in its entirety is okay, but he was outstanding, was as Jim Morrison in The Doors.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen that either.
That movie can probably get about 30 minutes edited out of it to make it a better movie. But his performance was so good in it that members of the band didn't know when Val was lip syncing to Jim Morrison or actually singing as Jim Morrison. They didn't know. That's how immersive that role was and how great he was in that. And like I said, Tombstone and The Doors are at least two occasions where I think he should have gotten at least a nomination. Robert, your thoughts on Val Kilmer?
Well, you pretty much everybody touched on how I feel, and I do think that he deserved a nomination for Tombstone.
Mhm.
Absolutely, and I actually brought the list up that year, and it's actually a very competitive field in '93. I don't think he should have won that year, Val Kilmer, but I think he should have got nominated.
Mhm.
I personally think Ray Fiennes should have won for Schindler's List. You know who won that year, if you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Tommy Lee Jones won for The Fugitive. So I will say this, though. I do think Val Kilmer's performance in Tombstone is stronger than Tommy Lee Jones. It's got more emotion. It's got a lot of pathos to it.
Yeah.
And you walk out looking at him as a three-dimensional character. He's not one-dimensional. They humanize him really well
Yeah.
in the film. And there's a lot of vulnerabilities in that performance with the kick-ass gunslinging.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
really a great performance. And just how he doesn't take the bullying in the film. You have a lot of people kind of degrade him, and he's very combative in that role. It's just a very, very strong
Yeah.
performance. And I agree with you on The Doors, too. Doors, look, I love Oliver Stone, especially from the Platoon era all the way up to Nixon era. He made one great film after the other. I don't think The Doors is a perfect film by any means, but I think it's a very good film, greatly acted film. And, yeah, he was outstanding as Jim Morrison. He really embodied the role quite well in that film.
I'm drawing a blank on the movie he did with Robert Downey Jr.
Kiss,
Kiss,
Bang,
Kiss,
Bang.
there we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I heard that was good.
That's a very
I
comedic
see-
movie.
Yeah,
Shane
I've
Black wrote and directed it. I think
Yep.
it was his directorial debut, I believe.
Oh,
And he
okay.
went on to write Iron Man, and he wrote Lethal Weapon films.
And the terrible Predator movie?
Well, the first one?
No,
The new one.
2018
Didn't
one.
he write the original? Wasn't he a co-writer?
I know he was. He
Am I-
played he was the first
I know
guy
he
that
was
gets
the-
killed in the movie.
Okay, that's what it was.
And
He
then
I knew. Okay,
I think
you're
he
right. Yep.
helped with the screenplay. I don't think
Like
he
a
actually wrote
ghostwriter
it.
in it.
I think so.
You know, with
But he
Val
did, yeah.
Val Kilmer, and Andrew was talking about Heat. His performance was so genuine and so wonderful that the U.S. military, I heard, copies his form of the way he held the rifle and was
right.
technical.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
used the movie in
Yeah.
great.
gun
That's a
training.
tutorial.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So speaking of Heat, I want to bring that.
Wow.
'Cause we're going to talk about Heat later on, but I want to get this off my chest. That performance, I think that character has the most humanism in the film, and he's a
Sure.
thief.
Yeah, with Ashley Judd. Yeah, the way
the dynamic
Oh,
between
yeah,
that
yeah.
relationship and how she spares him at the end, you're actually kind of rooting for him, and you're not rooting for these other scumbags
Yeah.
that
yeah.
you are for him. You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
I've always said the most intriguing villains, if you will, are the ones that you sympathize with and that
Exactly,
you
yeah.
feel for. Those are far more interesting than just black or white, good or bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, when I was standing in line to meet him, there was a woman standing next to me in line, and I'm like, "What did you bring to have signed?" And she pulls out like a, I don't know, 12 by 12 painting, I guess, and it was just these lines, these blurred lines going across the painting, and I was confused at first, and I'm like, "What is this?" And she's like, "You remember the scene in Top Gun where the guy's sitting in the train painting the landscape, and then they show his painting, and it's just a bunch of lines?" I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me!" So imagine her presenting that to Val Kilmer to put his name on. I thought that was awesome. That was great. So, any final thoughts on Val Kilmer?
No, he will be missed. It's a true loss. You don't really, Val Kilmer's one of those actors you don't appreciate until they're gone.
Yeah.
And the body of work that they've done and what it was and what could have been. And so it's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm grateful that I had a chance to look him in the eye and say, "You're one of my all-time favorite actors." I mean, whether he, took that to heart or not, I got to say it to him, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity. So,
It's a great memory, and check out the film, the documentary Val.
Oh, yeah.
You get to see him, and he's talking. He
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
reminisces about his whole career and how he feels about certain performances. It's
yeah.
really enlightening
We
documentary.
didn't even touch on Top Gun.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We gotta. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Top Gun, man. The volleyball scene. I mean, yeah,
Iceman.
that was, iconic,
You know-
iconic '80s movie.
It's a slight segue to, but it's something that we'll touch on later. But an actor that I feel similar towards in that is Danny Trejo, because not just from Machete, because his body of work. Because he can play that very like raw figure, but he's also just wildly funny. And I feel like people like Danny Trejo, and with the work he's done, when the time comes, whenever, hopefully it's a long, 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 long way away.
Yeah,
That they should look back on the body of work. Those are like underappreciated actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were both in Heat together.
Yes.
Trejo was in Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
need to watch that again.
So yeah, any actor would kill to have the IMDb page of Val Kilmer. So
Yeah.
our condolences go out to his family and friends, and he will be missed. Now, let's segue. That's a tough segue. So we talked about Batman Forever. That movie came out in 1995, and today's topic, 30 years ago, our favorite, best, top-grossing movies of 1995. Hard to believe that was 30 years ago. So that's our topic today. Now, I went online, and, things can get a little confusing when you go online and you type, what are the top movies of 1995? Because different websites have different criteria. Now, Box Office Mojo, which I usually go to look up numbers on movies and stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Box Office Mojo shows the grosses of the calendar year.
Yes.
Where other resources like Wikipedia will have the movie's entire run, the gross during its entire run. So that list changes. So I put together a top 10 list based on the numbers on Box Office Mojo, but then when I looked at other lists, I'm like, okay, that's not right.
Like,
So
Joe, I have a great
different
memory, and it was a lot of these movies. I could tell you if it came out 95, 94, or 96.
Right. Yeah. If they came out December 31st, 1994.
Because I remember in 1995, they were still talking about Pulp Fiction. And that came out the year prior.
94. Yeah.
94.
Yeah.
So because it was just one of those movies
Yeah.
like, hey, have you seen it? You got to go there while it's still in theater. And then.
Right.
Now, those were the good old days when movies lingered in theaters for a year.
Larger windows.
So imagine in 1995, not only do you have the movies coming out in 1995, you got those 1994 movies still in theaters. What a glorious time to be at the movies.
They used to have AMC Hampton and Cinemark Warren.
Yeah.
With $1 and $1.50 theaters.
We had the Water for $1, and we had the Kego Harbor.
Yep.
I saw Pulp Fiction at that Kego Harbor second run theater, actually.
Oh,
I was
nice.
a young
Yeah.
kid. Shouldn't have been watching it, but
I think I admit to it now. It's fine.
I think I saw it opening weekend, and I got dragged to it. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and it became one of my all-time favorite movies ever. So I tell you what, I'm going to start off with the top 10 movies according to Wikipedia and most other sources, and then I'm going to kind of go back to the numbers provided by Box Office Mojo. Now, Robert, you may know this, so hold off on responding to this. I'm curious if these guys know. If someone asked you, what's the number one grossing movie of 1995, what would you say? No cheating, no looking online. Any idea? Just each one of you throw out a movie title.
Toy Story.
I'm going with Batman.
According to Wikipedia, the top grossing movie of 1995 was Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that, Robert?
I did not. I would have put money on Toy Story, but that also came out in November.
So that Die Hard with a Vengeance came out
in June 95.
Okay.
And then Toy Story came out in November.
Oh, I see.
But it probably more of the most of the money probably made in 96, probably.
Yeah. Let's see.
So I outgrossed Batman Forever. I'm actually surprised about that too.
Yeah. So going back to my other list here, according to Box Office Mojo, Die Hard with a Vengeance is number 7 based on the earnings of that year. But according to the numbers that I looked up, Die Hard with a Vengeance earned over its entire theatrical run $366 million on a $90 million budget.
What?
That's absolutely insane.
Is that worldwide?
I think
That's
that is
worldwide,
worldwide.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was an entertaining movie.
I can't even
Oh,
recall.
I love it. Actually, it's my favorite. The three.
The only thing I remember about that movie is that Sam Jackson is in the film. I
yeah.
don't remember anything about the plot or the storyline.
Jeremy Irons was wonderful.
Jeremy
in
Irons
that.
was the villain,
Yeah.
Yeah. And the audience versus the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience loved it. 83% positive, critics 60% positive. So obviously the audience really loved it. But yeah, to find out that it was the top grossing movie of 1995 kind of blew my mind. And that was was it the third movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to me, only 3 exist.
They just kept milking it and milking it. Now, Toy Story, the numbers that I have on Toy Story are actually I have 30 million more than Die Hard. So I don't know if Toy Story includes any re-releases or why there's a discrepancy there. But I have Toy Story at $394 million on a $30 million budget. And Nick, you might want to plug your ears on this, but 100% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, 92% from the audience. It was released on, like you said, November 22nd, but over the course of its run, it earned $394 million. So these rankings have me all confused. I'm not sure why they that one source lists Die Hard at number 1 when another source says that Toy Story brought in more money. So I'm confused.
I think it's what Robert was saying because Toy Story came out in November.
Yeah.
So it'll make it. And I don't know when in November. Was it the first week of November? Because that's usually when the big.
I just remember seeing it before Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah. So so it had 2 months worth of revenue for 1995. Then the bulk of its stuff happens in 1996 because people are still not sure about this computer animation.
Yeah.
And you got Pocahontas, Aladdin, and you're still in that Disney era. Then you're like, oh wait, this is a funny movie. You have to go check this out. And
I remember it being a smash, and it was unlike anything anybody ever saw before.
Yeah. Yeah, now think about this. We've talked about this before, certain milestones in film history that changed the game. And Toy Story was the first 100% computer animated film. And to knock it out of the park like they did with the cast, the voices, the story, the animation, it just Pixar hit the ground running, and it was such a game changer. And so many films went 100% computer animation.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but 1995, because I was still in high school. 1995, I didn't appreciate 1995 until I got to 1998. Because then I thought about the movies that came out, The Usual Suspects, Casino.
It's a great year.
Even romantic comedies like While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock in there. It had it was like the best buffet of genres that you could have had, and movies that you would, Batman Forever, Pocahontas. Seven.
We'll be getting into this,
right?
Yeah.
When I sit back and think, like, oh my God, the movies that were coming out.
Like I said, it was a great time to be a movie buff.
The Usual Suspects.
All right, you're getting ahead, man. You're getting ahead. You're doing to me what I normally do to you.
And that's how it feels, everybody. That's what happens when you get Joe.
So, Toy Story was a game changer. Launched a franchise. Now, which one of you said I only count the first 3? You guys were talking about Die Hard. Who said that?
I did.
You did. That's how I feel about Toy Story. I thought
me too. I agree.
1, 2, and 3 was a perfect trilogy. Ended on a perfect note. I'm sitting there wiping away tears and blowing snot bubbles at the end of the movie, and then they go, "Oh, we're doing a Toy Story 4," which was pointless, unnecessary, and not very good. So
because they were trying to break up the crew even further. I'm like, come on, guys, why? You're like napalming my emotions. Like, what more? There's nothing left.
Yeah. That would be like me pulling out my vintage Star Wars action figures and going, where'd Luke go? He wandered off.
That's probably the concept of the 5th one. Andy's all grown up, and he goes back to getting the toys. It probably becomes a collector.
Right? Exactly.
Exactly.
Are you going to
full circle?
Are you going to be ready for Toy Story 5 in June of next year?
That's what St. Andrews.
I got a bad feeling.
Toy Story 4 is like Billy Zane in Titanic pulling up Jack's body, shooting in front of Rose because he survived, and then re-drowning him again. That's how I feel, Rose.
So the Toy Story trilogy for me, one of the greatest trilogies of all time, and Toy Story was such a game changer. Now, another top film that surprisingly lands in the top 3 on both of the lists that I have here. And again, when you hear this title, you're like, really? Apollo 13.
Yes.
Released in June 30th.
Okay.
Directed by Ron Howard. Again, stellar cast: Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, Gary Sinise. It earned $355 million on a $52 million budget.
That was
So,
worldwide. That had no worldwide.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing it like 180 with 200 at the time.
yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I
Domestic
think
was
all these numbers are global.
worldwide, Yeah.
One of the best lines I remember in the movie theater hearing was, "I hope they make it," and I just had to do that slow turn. I think they will.
I just revisited it.
Did you?
I did a whole 95 retrospective.
What
Oh,
a
cool.
and what a
Nice.
cast!
Oh, great cast.
What a
And
cast!
Kathleen Quinlan's outstanding as the
Yeah.
wife.
Yeah.
She's more than just a stay-at-home wife. She gets a lot of emotional juice in the film. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's going on at home. You never always think about what it's like. Like, oh, there goes my husband and the father of my children.
Really capture her and the kids' hysteria really well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a comedian, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but line that he has, he says, I'm no history buff. He goes, most movies that I see that are like historical epics, I'm riveted. I'm wondering how it's going to end, which I think is hysterical. That's a funny line. But yeah, Apollo 13, obviously based on real life events, riveting movie. Coincidentally, this is kind of a weird coincidence, but on April 14th, on that day in history, the Titanic struck an iceberg, Lincoln got shot in the head, and the line, "Houston, we have a problem," was uttered, all on April 14th.
Oh boy!
I want to stay in
Or
bed on
14th.
April 14th. So, but yeah, I love the movie, and despite knowing the outcome, it was riveting, and apparently the audience loved it. 96% from critics, 87% from the audience.
Nominated for Best Picture that year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the top 3 films of 1995. You briefly mentioned this, another big one that came out that year. Disney was on a hot streak. They had released Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. Those movies
Aladdin.
were just blockbusters. They followed it up in 1995 with Pocahontas on June 16th. Smash hit, $346 million on a $55 million budget. The reviews, not so kind. The critics gave it a 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience, 64%. I remember, after seeing those string of Disney hits, going to the theater, going, okay, let's see what you got with Pocahontas. And I remember, it was a beautiful movie. It had some memorable songs, but I remember walking out going, it was okay.
It's decent. It doesn't hold up well.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Pocahontas is Christian Bale does the voice in that film, and then he plays Pocahontas' husband in The New World by Terrence Malick
Oh.
9 years later.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
Which is
know
a
he
great
did the.
movie,
I
yeah.
didn't know he did the voice.
Yeah.
So he did the voice of John Smith?
No,
which
Mel
character?
Gibson did John Smith,
Oh, did
Yeah.
but it was the villain. Christian Bale did the villain
Oh, I didn't know that.
character in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, one of the criticisms from history buffs is if you look at the history of Pocahontas, she was 12 or 14
Yeah.
when she
It's always a problematic.
partnered up with John Smith,
Yeah.
and so that was something critics pointed a finger at and said, I don't know if that's the best topic to.
Which you wonder when
animate.
you that pitch at Disney. Let's do Pocahontas. Yeah, question, Bob. I don't know if the child thing is the way. I know our target
Yeah.
audience is children, but
Yeah, that's like doing a animated movie about Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
Woo!
my oh my.
So yeah, so Pocahontas isn't necessarily one that I own on DVD. I thought it was entertaining when it came out, but just didn't have the legs that some of those other films.
But it had a song that carried into the top 50 because
Oh,
it was
definitely.
sang by former
Williams.
Miss- Yes.
What's her name?
Vanessa.
Vanessa
Vanessa
Williams.
Williams.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, great song. Colors of the Wind, I
Yep.
believe it was. Yeah, that was an awesome song. So yeah, the kids propelled that one, I think, to a big hit. And unfortunately, that was began a bit of a decline for Disney because I don't remember the exact
Until
order,
Mulan, I think.
but I did not care for The Hunchback of
No.
Notre Dame. That
Yeah,
one
it was kind of a decline
odd.
after that. But I did
Yeah.
like what's the Georgia the '99 one, The Jungle.
Tarzan.
Tarzan.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Because you got Elton to come in with that
Yeah.
soundtrack.
That's a great song. Yeah.
That's right. He was their go-to hit guy because didn't he do something before
Lion
that?
King.
Well, I think
Yeah,
Phil,
so
Phil
he did
Collins
a song
did
in
the-
Lion King. And
Yeah.
I think Phil Collins, did
Collins
the song
did
in
one.
Tarzan, right?
Yeah. Well,
I think you're right. I
Yes,
think
you're right. Then what
yeah,
did
yeah,
Elton John do? I
Oh,
thought
Lion King.
Yeah.
Lion King.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
there we go.
So yeah, there's a little bit of a bumpy ride for Disney, and then then Tarzan and a bunch of stuff that came out after that. but-
Mulan came after that, right?
One was before 98.
98.
And,
There we go.
and Tarzan was 99.
There you go.
Hunchback was 97.
All right. Here's I don't even know if I want to bring this movie up, but you can't deny that this was a pretty big hit. According to Box Office Mojo, it's number 5 on the list. On the other list I have, I don't even think it cracked the top 10, but Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls came out November 10th. That was
That's the
Jim
sequel.
Carrey's follow-up to Ace Ventura, and it was a hit. $212 million on a $30 million budget. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 21%, but the audience, 72%.
I will defend that movie
Really?
The sequel, really?
Yeah.
because it had comedic. Look, as an overall story, but there were incidences when he's in the back, like his performance is like coming out of the rhino's butt.
That's one of the hardest times I laughed sitting in a movie theater. I'm like, who came up with that? That's hysterical.
When he's
And having the tourist witness his birth.
when he's goes over the waterfall, just the vitriol, Spike, starting to get numb. I mean, the trial when he was saying, I have to fight him.
Yeah. Now the first Ace Ventura, I remember, I kind of protested the movie, like, nah, that's kiddie fare, nah. and it made so much money, and like everyone's talking about it. I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I think I saw it on video or cable, and I laughed my butt off. I'm like, this is really funny. So when the sequel came out, I went to the movie theater to see it, and I don't think it's as good as the first one, but it had its moments.
I agree with Robert on one thing. They went over the top because if you compare Jim Carrey's performance in the second one to the first one, he was actually trying to play a little bit straighter
Right.
because he was like making the cops look down on him as a pet detective, and he keeps showing them up, but just because of the way he observes things, the way he puts things together, he hunts the clues down. This one was just he went from one comedic set to another.
Right. It's just
That's
him in the jungle being crazy.
Yeah.
And some of it is undeniably amusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now think about this. Over a 2-year period from 94 to 95, Jim Carrey did The Mask,
Mm-hmm.
Dumb and Dumber,
Mm-hmm.
Ace
what
Ventura.
was Ace Ventura in 94, follows that up in 95 with
Batman
the sequel
Forever.
and Batman Forever. That's like $1 billion
Yeah.
in revenues
Yeah.
over the course of a year or so.
He's still making
that's
money off those
remarkable.
with residuals. He's
Oh,
probably
sure.
making at
Yeah,
least
that's why he's
$100,000 a
kinda
year of each movie.
He's kind of semi-retired. He's into his art, even though he shows up in movies like Sonic the Hedgehog. But
Yeah, it's silent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and people seem to love him in those movies.
do.
I haven't seen those, but
I haven't either.
boy, you can't deny the fact that this guy was on fire.
And
in
then
the
he had
mid-90s.
Cable Guy after that,
96,
96, and that led towards Man on the Moon coming
Right,
up later.
99.
99.
And the
Well,
Truman
when you
Show.
make
Truman Show.
Yeah, Truman
When
Show.
you
That's
earn
my
that
favorite
kinda-
of his.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
mine too.
When you earn that kind of money, then Hollywood starts giving you your prestige pictures and stuff. So he started doing some of that more serious
yeah.
stuff.
He doesn't have to say yes to everything,
Right.
and he can do some good dramas.
When
you
was
know, like
Eternal Sunshine?
2004.
2004.
Yeah.
All right.
Great movie.
Now,
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what made headlines with the Cable Guy was that was the first $20 million payday, if I remember correctly. He was the first actor to earn
He
$20
got it
million.
before Tom?
I believe so. We'll
I-
have to look it up. You might
No,
have
I
to
think
look it up.
you're
but-
right because that's when like him and Will Smith started getting those giant paychecks on that era, and
Exactly.
Tom Cruise started getting on board. And
Yeah.
Because
But I
Will
believe he
Smith
was the
started off
first.
with that drama movie about the one in Washington. I'm drawing a blank. This is embarrassing.
well, there,
He played the gay character.
well, there's Independence Day that made him big. I'm trying to remember.
But the ones before that, because the Independence Day was 96.
Oh yeah, you're talking about with Stockard Channing in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
So
about.
that came out first.
Yeah.
Then 95 was Bad Boys, which
Bad
launched
Boys.
its own.
All right.
franchise. Then
And
96 he
Independence
has
Day,
Independence Day. Then
Men in
97
Black. Yeah.
Men in Black. Then Wild
Yeah.
West. But he had Enemy
Right.
of the State.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he had his run.
Yeah. He could do no wrong. What did you find, Andrew?
It's just popping up. Jim Carrey is widely considered the first actor to earn $20 million for a single film, with his paycheck for the cable guy.
There, man.
Yeah.
See?
Nice,
Yep.
Joe.
Any of you who doubted me, think again.
I didn't doubt it. I'm just surprised that Tom Hanks didn't get it because he already had his run. He had Philadelphia. He had Forrest Gump in there, and this man didn't get to. And he had
before
Oscars
Tom Cruise or
before Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. So he paved the way for, big, big paydays. Now, of course, there were actors who would take the back end on a film, a percentage of the grosses, and they would make millions on the percentages. But as far as upfront payday for acting in a movie, yeah, he paved the way. Another movie that's on both of my lists here, I don't have much detail on it because I think I've seen it once. I've never seen it again. But on May 26, 1995, the world was introduced to a live-action Casper, the Friendly Ghost, with Christina Ricci. And apparently it was a big hit. It was a top 10 grosser for 95. Any thoughts on Casper, the Friendly Ghost?
No. I have no thoughts. And because I did not watch it. I remember watching the cartoons. I was not that gung-ho about the live action one, despite having Wednesday in it.
Now, when we decided we were going to talk about 1995 movies, did you expect us to bring up Casper the Friendly Ghost?
I did not. I did not. I had Leaving Las Vegas. I had GoldenEye, stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll get to those if
But
there's time.
Now that you say
Let's
that,
elaborate more about Casper.
I was just gonna say now that you say that, Joe, it was a big hit from what I remember. I didn't see it, but I remember a bunch of kids my age at school talking about it. So
yeah.
yeah.
And Christina Ricci, she continued her kind of quirky thing where she was in the Addams Family movies, and then
Now
she
and
did
then.
this, and so she kind of embraced that role. That what are some of the actresses today, like the one that plays Wednesday,
Jenna
today?
Ortega.
Yeah, that sort of thing. She embraced that. She kind of broke ground on that, and then of course, well, I guess you might say. Man, my brain's not working. In Beetlejuice, Lydia.
Winona Ryder.
Yeah, she kind of was cut from the same cloth around that time too. So
Now, Joe, I will extend an olive branch. We are more brothers in this case. You were talking about Casper. I was going to be focusing on Jumanji. Because
Yeah,
because people like Robert, they'll
Well, see, if there's
they'll
any-
bring the criteria. They roam in higher circles.
Well, I will say this: there's got to be some justices in the world. If we don't talk about Leaving Las Vegas, and we talk more about Casper, there's no justice.
Yeah.
I'm saving that for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm waiting for you to class up the joint when we get to that.
Yeah, there's a reason you're here. You're here, Robert.
If I want to say, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, you're here to elevate the discourse.
That's right.
But Joe, I do have a fond memory of Casper, though. It came in those old childhood cases. Remember those real thick ones? I remember owning it as a kid.
The
That's how I watched
VHS?
the VHS ones.
Yeah,
Remember
the-
those?
oh,
I
yeah.
remember
The
that one, too.
plastic.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
Casper looking really innovative at the time,
Yeah.
but I haven't watched it since to know if it's aged or not. It probably hasn't aged well, I'm guessing, with the effects, but never really had any passion to go back to it, though.
Yeah, one of my favorite fan theories out there is that Casper is the ghost of Richie Rich. And if you place their
Yes.
images side by side, it's the same
It's the
person,
same.
man.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's hysterical.
Yeah.
Because I would hate to think that a human being would die and end up looking like Casper in the afterlife.
That's dark.
So Bill Pullman was
The
in
dad.
Casper.
Yep.
Then Independence Day.
Lost
Then Lost Highway.
Oh
What
my
a run.
God.
Versatility.
Yeah.
Now, since you mentioned Jumanji a moment ago, on the Wikipedia list, Jumanji's at number 10. It was released at the very tail end of the year, December 15th, directed by Joe Johnston,
the director of Captain America.
Yeah.
who incidentally is one of my all-time favorite directors.
And
Rocketeer.
Rocketeer. Yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep.
Oh.
He has a pretty great resume. And prior to his directing career, he designed a lot of the vehicles in the Star Wars movies.
I didn't
That's-
know that.
He
that's
was,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was like a technical drawer, like architecture type thing, and so that ability that he had led to him creating the AT-AT and some of the vehicles in Star Wars because he had that. And then somehow, I for a while I thought it was two separate people, and I found out the same guy who designed those Star Wars ships went on to direct some of my all-time favorite films.
Cool.
Pretty cool. So that was a big hit. Robin Williams starred in it, of course, earned $262 million. I revisited it recently, and it really holds up. It's really, really entertaining. The digital CGI effects were sort of in their infancy when that movie came out, but what I think one of the strongest suits of that movie are the animals. So when the animals are stampeding, throughout the city there, CGI did a pretty nice job of depicting large animals like rhinos and elephants. One of the more annoying aspects are the monkeys. The monkeys are almost hard to stomach. But it really does hold up all these years later. So, yeah, it was fun revisiting that.
Yeah, I always like that. I embrace it.
Yeah. Let's talk about James Bond.
GoldenEye.
Yeah. So as 95 approached, we had seen Sean Connery. We had seen Roger Moore as James Bond. One movie starred George Lazenby. That's the On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And when it was time to pass the baton, they did do Timothy Dalton for 2 films.
Yep.
Hated those films. I did not. I think Timothy Dalton makes a better villain than a hero. He's kind of has this dark persona, and I loved him in The Rocketeers, the villain.
Yeah.
So after Timothy Dalton was 2 movies and done, the filmmakers announced to the world that Pierce Brosnan was going to step into the role, and his debut was GoldenEye, which came out again late 1995, November 17th, and the villain was Sean Bean. Famke Janssen was Xena Onatopp. Typical Bond girl name. Big hit, $356 million on a $60 million budget. Critics and audience alike like the movie, 80% from film critics, 83% from the audience. My memories of seeing GoldenEye in the theater was that it was just okay. I don't remember much about the story. I do remember, this is my strongest emotion that came out of me watching that movie in the theater, is they made a big deal out of the Bond car in that film, which was a BMW, I want to say Z3 convertible. And they had commercials saying, here's the new Bond car. So when I'm sitting in the theater, I'm like, I can't wait to see what they do with this car in this movie. So, Q is like, 007, here's your new car. And he gets in it, and he drives from point A to point B, gets out of the car, we never see it again.
Yeah.
And it was a commercial for the BMW, and I was furious. Like, come on, that's one of the elements you expect in a James Bond movie. The villain, the girl, the gadgets, the car. And they didn't use the car to its fullest extent.
How dare they waste Q's scene?
Oh, it just was sacrilegious to me. And that they made up for it in subsequent Pierce Brosnan films where they had the Aston Martin Vanquish, which was nicknamed the Vanish in Die Another Day, that turned invisible. Now we're talking.
They were keeping a promise to Pierce Brosnan because he couldn't get out of his Remington Steele contract. Otherwise, he would have been Bond sooner.
Yeah, he would have come in when Timothy Dalton came in.
At the
Brosnan was lined up to play Bond, and
after
the
Moore had
TV
stepped
producer
out.
said, "No, you have a contract."
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, do you guys have any memories of GoldenEye, Nick?
Yeah, it stole a lot of the video game stole a lot of my friends'
Time.
Yeah, that damn game was so damn addictive.
It was so much fun, that game. Did you have a 64?
I did.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
Yeah, that was one of the most popular games ever.
So-
They put Tomorrow Never Dies on the 64
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
It was in a blue cartridge.
Right.
I still have it.
Wow.
and
that might be a collector's item.
It is, and Tina Turner's just GoldenEye. I'm like, oh my
the
God,
theme
lady, you
song.
still have it. You still have it, Tina.
That's something we're going to have to dedicate an entire podcast to James Bond, because we could talk about
The songs.
the cars, the villains, the girls.
The girls.
Yeah, that would be a fun,
Jane
fun
Seymour.
podcast. Oh,
My God in heaven.
yeah. So
And on top, the best way to go to be killed by a Bond
Yes,
villain is
it's between her thighs.
other than Thumper and Bambi. And I'm like, oh, you two are going to kill me? All right, fair enough. On we go.
Yeah.
The funeral director's like, I'm sorry, we've done everything we could to wipe the smile off his face, and there's nothing I can do. Yeah, I would die with a smile on my face. Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a fond memory of
Pretty.
GoldenEye. Talking about it, I saw it at the Showcase Cinema back then. Remember that in Telegraph?
I-
You
I-
had
No,
two
sure.
theaters.
Yeah.
That's where I saw it.
Always
It
went
was,
to
It was
Showcase. Yeah.
packed that night when I saw it. It was very well liked. I remember, and
Yeah.
I think that's actually my favorite Brosnan film.
Is
Yeah, his first one.
I know some of them were a little cheesy and over the top. For me, it's between Tomorrow Never Dies and Die Another Day. I loved what's the actress that was in
Halle Berry?
Halle
Or
Berry
was
was
She's in
great
Die
in
Another
that.
Day, yeah.
But I'm
Terry
talking
Hatcher?
about the Asian actress that was just in
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah. She
Uh-huh.
was in
Tomorrow
Tomorrow Never
Never
Dies,
Dies.
right?
Yes.
And I thought she was one of the best Bond girls of all time.
I have a friend who's an actual physics major and like astrophysics and quantum, and he got so mad to see Denise Richards play. He goes, there's never been in my department any woman that studies physics that looks like that.
Yeah.
Christmas Jones or whatever her name was.
That's Professor Christmas to
yes,
you.
or Doctor.
Doctor. Yeah, that was pretty ludicrous.
He got
But-
so mad. He goes, "That's the most unbelievable part. I can't believe they did that to me."
Now, there's one more movie. Well, actually, there's several more movies I want to talk about, but here's a controversial one that I want to bring up. This goes back 30 years. This movie's always been surrounded by controversy, and that movie is Waterworld. Now, when you bring up Waterworld, a lot of people say, "Oh my God, one of the biggest box office bombs in Hollywood history." Then why is it on both of my lists in the top 10 for 1995? It made money. Now, it didn't make a ton of money. As a matter of fact, the budget was arguably around $175 million, and it grossed $264 million. So there's a narrow window there, maybe.
It's the
And
domestic grosses at the time. It underperformed domestically, and it clouded the reputation at that time.
right. Now, I saw it in theaters. I enjoyed it. Now, some people criticize it by saying it's Mad Max on the water, and again, the science that would make Neil deGrasse Tyson roll his eyes. Is there enough water on this planet to reach the highest peaks of the Earth? Yeah, that's to be debated. Because when they finally discover land in the movie, spoiler alert, people speculate that it's Mount Everest that they find, and I'm like, so the ocean reaches the top of Mount Everest? I don't know if that's
That's
possible.
that's almost 2.5 miles of water.
Exactly.
Now, my thing is, Joe, when you mentioned that, how did it make the list? I like to point out that William Hung, She Bang, also had a top six. There's something in our culture that we like to see train wrecks. We can't, and look, drive on I-75, have a car fire. We'll all stop and watch it.
I'm gonna throw
I'm
a
just
name
saying.
at you. Dennis Hopper was in
The
this
villain,
film,
yep.
and he was good in it. I mean, he was a little over the top, but he's always over
When
the
is he
top.
not,
in
right?
Speed.
Yeah.
Blue
But-
Velvet.
For me, I guess if we were to do a podcast dedicated to guilty pleasures, Waterworld is
Waterworld's
one of my
ultimate
guilty.
That's
guilty
fair.
pleasure.
I
I
can
enjoy
see
the
that,
film.
but I'm just saying, when you're asking, how could it can't possibly suck. It was on this top 10 list, and again, I point out America's fascination with natural disasters.
And Kevin Costner, who's so versatile, and I'm saying that facetiously.
He
I
played,
was about to
he's-
say.
hey, I know we're not knocking his Robin Hood performance. I could hear the English accent somewhere.
It was at the beginning of the movie. I think it got cut out later, but yeah, he pretty much plays the same character in all his films. But I don't know. I enjoyed Waterworld. Now, like I said, I have some other movies to talk about, but I'll save those if we come back to me. So, Nick, I know I stepped on your toes here, but
No.
throw some titles out at me from 1995 that made that year so special.
For me, the movies that stood out to me because I enjoyed them, Outbreak, which scared the hell out of me, which then you look back 30 years later and we're like, oh yeah, I can see how this could have happened.
It's eerie how we lived that movie, 15, 20?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty eerie.
I loved Seven. I loved Usual Suspects. And the movie that was very underrated that I enjoyed was Dead Man Walking.
I just watched it again the other night.
Now, refresh my memory on that. Who was
Dead
in
Man
Dead
Walking was I think that was
Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon. She got an Oscar nod for it.
She
She
won
won
an
it.
Oscar.
No, no,
won
yeah,
it,
she
yeah.
won. She won an Oscar for,
So
and then
Sean
Sean Penn
Penn.
playing a
Death Row.
death row inmate. Yeah, and
And Jack Black's in it. In a very, very early performance.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He
I
plays
had no
Sean
idea.
Penn's brother in it.
yeah, and for me, I'm Andy from Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins.
Tim
That
Robbins
was
directed it.
that was
Yeah.
that his directorial debut?
I believe
Wow.
it was. Yes.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And
Let's,
he was nominated for Best Director too that year for
Yep.
that film.
Now, I was going to save this for Robert, but since you brought it up, let's talk about Seven. When since you mentioned it, when Seven came out, I didn't see it in the theaters, and just because of the nature of it, I kind of avoided it and didn't see it for a long, long time. And then one day I got together with some friends and we did a show called Movies for Dumb Guys, and we did our Halloween edition. And one of the movies that one of the co-hosts brought up was Seven, and so I was obligated, as I edited the program together, to put a clip from Seven into the program, and I had never seen it before. So I got the VHS tape and kind of skimmed through it looking for a clip to put in the program. But as I was skimming through it, I was trying to watch it enough to comprehend it. And even though there were moments that, left me shaken, when you get to that ending, it's one of the most gut punch, kick in the you-know-what, like, it's one of the most brutal endings in the history of film. Now, I've never sat down and watched the movie from beginning to end at regular speed, but I watched it in fast motion enough to get the gist of it. And even though I think the performances are great, Kevin Spacey won an Oscar,
Yeah.
right?
But for Usual Suspects. he
Usual
won it for.
Suspects.
Oh, he won for Usual Suspects.
Yes.
And that-
I thought
that
he
was
won
the
for
year that
Seven.
introduced me to Kevin
Okay.
Spacey because he was in Outbreak, and I love that movie
Yeah,
because
he had a great year.
and then
Okay.
Usual Suspects, and then he's the villain in Seven.
And he was
So
a mystery
those
villain.
two movies
Yeah.
came out the same
They
year.
did.
That's
And
wild.
they were very careful with promoting him in the film. They didn't say he was in it. You didn't know until the final end. You're
Yeah.
like, wow,
yeah,
that's him. He's John Doe.
yeah. So Seven, great movie, great performances. I never want to watch it again. It's brutal. It's a gut punch. Any thoughts you guys want to add, Robert? What do you want to add to our discussion about Seven?
You brought it up. I revisited it again the other day. It's one of my favorite films of all time. One of my favorites of the '90s. I think it's David Fincher's probably his best film. I will say this though, it is a grisly film. It's very deeply disturbing. Watching it now though, even though it's very unnerving, I think it's even more disturbing now. And I'll tell you why. Because it's very tastefully done. At the time, it felt more horrible than it actually was. I mean, it still is on a visceral level.
Right.
But none of those murders you see actually happen. And if a movie like that made today, the producers would be like, we got to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glorify everything.
Yeah.
They'd ruin it.
They ruin it.
Yeah.
And I think that the film ages so well because you see the aftermath of the murders.
Right.
And it psychologically torments you more because you're actually playing it in your head.
Yeah.
Where if you would have saw it, you just would have thought it was torture porn. Is
It's-
the word they like to throw around.
It's the Jaws element.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
Let them
Yeah.
fill in. Like, don't show them the shark. Let them figure out what's
It
doing
is.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
And you never see, spoiler alert, what's in the box. You never see.
Yeah.
You never see it.
It's
But you-
left to your
it's-
imagination.
it is. And I
Yeah,
think
You see Morgan Freeman's reaction to it.
Yes.
yeah.
And it's so unsettling. But I think it's such a well-made movie. It's just a brilliant piece of cinema. I never saw that ending coming. You never do.
Right. Exactly.
And Fincher did that because he had done Alien 3,
Right.
and that had just gone off the rails.
Yeah.
So then he's like, oh, no, I'm David Fincher. Here's David Fincher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that was only his second film.
his second movie.
Yeah.
He did music videos, and a lot of people think that's his best. A lot of people are torn between like Zodiac, Social Network. I don't know. I think Seven just ages better. Joe, if you could, I would.
Fight Club.
If you ever get
I-
the chance, I know it's
Maybe when
unsettling.
October rolls around,
Yeah.
I'll revisit it. But there are a few movies like Butterflies or the Silence of the Lambs. I'm picturing the
Yeah.
poster with the butterfly that I'm visibly shaking after seeing movies
Yeah,
like that,
sure.
and it's hard for me to do that to myself. So I tend to steer clear. But the theme of the 7 deadly sins and all that stuff was just so brilliant. The
was.
way they use that in the film.
And
So.
It's Joe's ironic sunshine package. Schindler's List, Sophie's Choice, 7.
I know about that brilliant exchange between Spacey, John Doe with
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. It's just so greatly scripted, and just the exchange and the dynamic between all three of those men. It's just, you can't ask for better writing and staging and acting between those three. It was just impeccable.
Right. You know what? A phrase that keeps reoccurring, which makes me laugh when I see it now, is during our group chats when we talk about films and stuff, in talking to friends when they recommend a film. This is the phrase I hear over and over and over again. It's such a great movie. It's so well written and well acted. Joe, it's probably not for you.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time now, and I'm like, I think you guys are starting to figure me out.
Yeah.
There are just some movies where I'm like, I can't do that to myself.
We watch it, we look at it, let's file that away.
Do not watch The Substance, Joe.
No.
Please watch The Substance. I want to hear your views.
Well, I was shocked watching the Oscars that they showed some clips from The Substance that were really disturbing. Like, why are you showing that on the Oscars, man?
When Conan comes out of her bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I went, wow, you just talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got ambushed on that one.
And people at the FCC going,
That reminds me of like going to the drive-in as a kid, and on the screen we're watching is like Pete's Dragon. On the screen behind me is some slasher teenage college flick, and I'm looking at the screen behind me. So, all right. So you rattled off a bunch of movies there, Andrew. What do you have from 1995 you want to add to the conversation?
Briefly talked about Heat. That's on my list.
Yeah.
Casino.
Yeah.
Casino is one of those movies, again, that I loved, but could have had 30, 45 minutes cut out of the middle there.
It's
Like,
long.
It was very riveting, and then it drags for a while, and then it gets really riveting again. And I'm like,
I think when it came out, it held the record for the most F words.
Easily broken by Tarantino years later.
Okay.
one of my pet peeves with Casino is very early in the movie, we see De Niro's character as the victim of a car bomb, and it's clearly like a mannequin in the car getting incinerated. Then when we see that scene revisited later, he like opens the door and leaps out of the car, and I'm like, that's not what happened in the early part of the film. It was clearly two different things.
They meant to fix it in post.
I know you had recently watched this, maybe fairly recently last year, and you said you didn't like it. Was 12 Monkeys?
Yeah, I had a hard time with that.
Didn't you say
pretty
you
wacky.
You didn't like Brad Pitt's character?
Oh, he was so over the top and so crazy. And I'm sure that's what he was going for. But
Terry Gilliam for you.
yeah,
Terry Gilliam.
yeah, not my thing.
I do want to point one thing out, and for the audience, I happen to have an inside look at Andrew's list, and also with Robert's. Here's what I understand, Joe. If we were in Vegas, you and I get sent to the kiddie pool. Like we
go to Circus.
Yeah, we go to where all like the beer drinkers are. These guys go up to like the high rollers. Because I look at that list, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I like turtles.
So for one of the two kid movies that are on my list, one we talked about Toy Story, which I saw in the theater and I loved it.
Yeah.
Babe, I saw in the theater, and I think I either did or almost cried a little bit. It was so good.
Now, I'm glad you brought up Babe because I loved Babe, but there's one movie that's haunting me that I've never seen, and I remember a friend of mine told me it's his all-time favorite movie, and I maybe I'll watch it this weekend. Babe, Pig in the City, the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
They say is better than the first movie. That it's outstanding.
I don't know if I saw that or not.
Right.
I know I for sure watched the first. I would have assumed I watched the second, but
Yeah.
I don't have a memory of it.
Well, he goes to
Exactly.
the city, gets lost, and he meets all these other animals, and they kind of do a hideout in a lost house, and they're getting chased around by these crazy animals like foxes and dogs and stuff.
But yeah, those two movies. It's a shame they never came out with a third one to complete the trilogy. But
Yeah.
those movies were surprisingly good.
George
And-
Miller from Mad Max, produced the first Babe
Oh wow!
and directed the Babe Pig in the City.
Wow!
Oh.
Wow! Okay,
I believe Joe has just greenlit Babe 3.
let's do it, man. Babe
Yes.
3.
I
That'll do,
don't.
Pig.
I
That'll
don't
do.
know if this one's probably not on anyone else's list, and I haven't watched it in forever. And I didn't know it was a remake, but Sabrina with Harrison Ford, Greg Kinnear, and who was the chick?
Julie Ormond.
Ormond, yeah.
So is that a remake of the Humphrey
Billy Wilder's.
Bogart
Yes.
movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I saw it, and I'm like, I had never seen Harrison Ford in this type of role. You know, I had seen, of course, Indiana Jones and Star Wars. But I remember being, I don't know, probably 11 when I saw it, and I'm like, this is good for a romantic comedy or whatever it was. I don't know how I would like it today, but at the time I liked it.
Now, since you're talking about Sabrina, there's another podcast topic I'd like to tackle someday, and that is the age gaps between leading man and leading lady. In the original Sabrina, you have Humphrey Bogart as kind of the leading man and a young Audrey Hepburn as the love interest, and it's awkward. It's uncomfortable.
I know I've said this before. One of our favorite movies, Lost in Translation, Bill Murray was 3 times older than Scarlett Johansson.
But I forget, but that's a platonic.
Yeah.
Is it? That's
There's
romantic.
never.
Is it?
There's,
It is. I mean, that movie's about the spiritual
Tim Robinson
connection.
over here. No,
Right, yeah.
no. There's never. I never got the physical vibe that anything happened between the two of them. It was intellectual. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that because it was more of a connection.
Just below
Yes.
the surface, guys. Come on. It was just below the surface.
Look, that's what you have Andrew doing. Me, I have Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones in Entrapment, where I'm going, come on, man. What is happening right now?
Yeah.
And then what happens? Michael goes, yeah, I'm gonna make that reality.
It's a
And
storybook romance.
my last 2 movies on my list, Empire Records. Have you seen that?
I don't know. No, I don't think
It's
I have.
Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, Renee Zellweger. It's about these young people that work in a record store.
Like a Harmony Records thing.
And, it's about a couple different things.
I
But
always get that movie mixed up with the John Cusack film. What was the John
High
Cusack?
Fidelity.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get those two movies
Oh, yeah,
mixed up. So I'll have to check it out. I don't think I've ever seen
my
Empire.
sister actually introduced me to that one probably 20 years ago. But yeah, really, really good movie. And then 4 Rooms, which is 4 different directors. Of course,
He was
Tarantino,
involved,
Robert
yeah.
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. I forgot the other
Alexander
2.
Rockwell was the other one. Alexander Rockwell. And then there's Allison Anders.
Okay. And Tim Roth plays the bellhop in this old hotel, and it's just over the course of the night, 4 different stories happen that he's kind of gets involved with, and it's pretty bonkers. Have you seen it?
No, but do you see what I mean? We eat at the buffet. They eat at the Michelin star restaurant.
I know. Rob likes
4 Rooms
it.
is
I've never seen it.
It's
Never
It
seen
is.
that one.
The Tarantino segment is so good.
Yeah.
It is so funny.
It is.
Bruce
It's
Willis
hilarious. Bruce
is
Willis.
in it.
And Bruce Willis doesn't take a credit in the movie because he worked on it so cheap that he couldn't work a SAG rate. So if you do
Oh,
that,
wow.
you can't get a credit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Highly, Joe. I think you would like it. There's nothing too messed up about it.
Yeah.
Less than 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's short, and
Okay.
there's 4 distinct stories that happen in a hotel. It is really, really cool.
I love that you're hyping this as filet mignon, and then Robert just shot it off as spam.
Yeah. Upgrade from spam, like a Kroger steak.
There you go.
You're gonna have to use that in a review someday.
Yeah. That's good.
It's kind of like a Kroger steak.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm sitting here admiring Andrew for
the first time. No.
recommending movies to me that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
That's always refreshing because it's usually the roles are reversed.
And it's when I usually do recommend movies to you, they're The Substance or Beau is Afraid. But genuinely, I think you would like 4 Rooms. It's
All right.
really, really good.
All right, I'll add them on my to-do list.
Like Andrew's Andrew and Robert, who are the people we want to take when we go to an indie film festival.
Yes.
Like, but if
That's
we go
right.
to like something here are the top 25 movies coming out. Nah, guys, I haven't seen this.
So that brings us to our segment, Classing Up the Joint with Robert
It's like
Butler.
Ding, ding, ding.
like in my own segment.
I need some theme music or something. Welcome to Classing Up the Joint
It
with
is.
Robert Butler. All right, Robert, class up the joint. What do you got from 1995?
Well, should I say my favorite movie or one of my favorites? What should I start
Have
with?
at the floor is yours, sir.
You do it.
Well, there's a documentary I absolutely love that came out that year. It's very renowned. It has a Criterion. I actually think you would like it. You might have seen it. We'll find out. Crumb, about our Robert Crumb, the underground.
I remember the film. He was a
Comic book
cartoonist.
artist. Cartoonist,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. I remember the film. I don't think I've ever seen it, but I do remember when it came
Directed
out.
by Terry Zwigoff, went in to do the great movie Ghost World. He did Bad Santa in 2004 and Art School of Confidential. But this movie just really chronicles this weirdo Robert Crumb cartoonist, and you see his fetishes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 95 movie. It came out in 95. He likes to do this. Andrew likes to say, oh, it's 94.
It says
Okay, look at
Crumb is a 1994 American documentary film.
It didn't get it got a theatrical release in 95. It made all. So go to Critics Top 10 list. You'll see it made all the lists.
So
in
probably
95.
what happened, and this is what always happens, it probably
You
got
did
a
that
New
deliberately.
York. It got a New York and L.A. release to be eligible for
Yes.
the Oscars and the award season, but then it gets a wide release.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, Andrew is just
Even when they troll, each other, it's
Just
highfalutin.
trolling.
It's like a highfalutin Waldorf and Statler. It's like, oh my.
Crumb. There you go. Crumb's 95. I verified it. I know I saw it in VHS in 95 or 96. But at any rate, it follows this weirdo around, and it gets really heartbreaking at the same time, though. You get to see his brother who's really depressed,
Okay.
and he stays at home. He lives at home with his mom, and you really start feeling sorry for these guys, and they're both talented, and you really see the success of Robert Crumb. He uses his internal torment into his artwork, where his brother also carries the same, but he never had the opportunity to carry it, even though he has the same potential. It really shows that contrast, and it ends up becoming a very heartbreaking and powerful documentary.
Who played Crumb?
Well,
Is it-
interesting you say that, because there was an actor that played him in American Splendor, Paul Giamatti.
Oh, that's what I was.
That's what you're thinking
okay.
of. Yeah,
okay.
which is also about a
So
cartoonist.
what you're talking about is the documentary?
Yeah, about
okay.
Robert
all right.
Crumb.
See, I'm getting those two things
Yeah.
mixed up. Okay.
But another one I absolutely love is, you guys brought it up. I want to talk a little bit more in depth about Casino.
Okay.
When I first saw it, I loved it, but at the time, everybody was like, it's just kind of a retreat of Goodfellas. I think that's why it didn't get a lot of Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
Sharon Stone was nominated, but I think years later, it's kind of aged like a fine wine, because we look at it and we're like, even though it's not quite as great as Goodfellas as the general consensus, but we could say it's kind of like that evil stepsister.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, it's still great. It's grandiose. In some ways, it's bolder than Goodfellas. It's just as impeccably well made. It's so visually slick, and I think it actually gets better the more and more you watch it.
Yeah.
And it happened with me, Casino.
I revisited it within the last year or so, and I loved it. And it has great moments. And it has, now correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering this correctly, it has one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've ever seen in a movie, when Joe Pesci's character and his character's brother are taken out to a cornfield.
Yes.
Is that from Casino?
Yes,
That-
it
Yeah.
is. Yep.
And it is painful to watch. It's
It
heartbreaking.
is.
Because first, Joe Pesci's character watches them unleash on his brother, then they unleash on him.
They force him
and
to
it's-
watch it.
Yeah, it is insane.
And what's even more
I got
disturbing,
goosebumps, yeah.
It's disturbing seeing your brother die in front of you like that.
Right.
Even more disturbing, your best friend for decades
Yeah,
turns on you on the whim like that,
yeah,
which is played by Frank LaPagelia, which is interesting because that character usually gets beat up a lot
Yeah.
by Joe Pesci in Raging Bull and Goodfellas, and here he is. He gets the last laugh. But
yeah.
that's one of my it's one of my top 5 Scorsese movies. One of my
Yeah.
top 5 from that year.
And Sharon Stone was amazing in that.
Oh, she is, and,
Yeah,
and that character, that last hour, it really becomes the Sharon Stone show.
Exactly.
It really does.
Right, right.
And another one I absolutely love too. Heat. We already talked about that,
Mm-hmm.
and just what I want to talk about Heat is just that confrontation scene at the diner between
Yeah.
Pacino and it holds up so well, and De Niro.
Yeah, having two legends, and I don't know if people are aware of this. It's the first time that Pacino
Right.
and
De Niro.
and De Niro
Yeah.
are on screen together, and at this point they're already legends.
Yeah.
So to see them come face to face, sort of this cat and mouse game, it's a great movie moment. I think one of the all-time great movie moments when those two share the screen together for the first time in Heat.
It is, and you look at De Niro's character in the movie, and he's really despicable at the end of the day. He really
Mm-hmm.
is. However, you get that respect at the end, and you
Yeah.
feel that earned respect, and you're like, you feel for these characters,
Yeah.
just like you do Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
I think it's top tier Michael Mann. It's up there with The Insider and Last of the Mohegans. I feel being one of his finest films. It's so well made.
That's
Yeah.
one of those movies where when you're a producer, you look at the cast and you go, wait, can we afford this? You see-
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, wait, I get LeBron and Kobe? This
Right,
is-
that's true.
this is
Good
gonna-
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, in the 70s, I grew up with those disaster flicks where they would bring in all like names together in one film,
Right.
and that's kind of the same thing. Like you watch the opening credits and go, you got to be kidding me. They're all in the same movie.
So everyone's working for spec on this, right?
They are.
To get this greenlit.
And that climax is electrifying.
Yeah.
It really is in the airplane field when they, the showdown. It's great.
Yeah. And I just read just the other day that Pacino's line was improvised where he said something along the lines of, she got a great ass.
Yeah.
That was like improvised.
It was.
And
You could tell.
that was classic Pacino.
Do I got time for one or two more?
We're good. We're cooking.
One-
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one I absolutely love is, you don't like it, Joe. You said it wasn't for you. I absolutely love it. 12 Monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's another one that the more and more you watch it, the more you comprehend. I think the ending of that film is brilliant. Just the whole how time travel works.
Yeah.
And it opens up a lot of interpretations. What I feel is that that the scientists get on that airplane, they catch David Mamet, or not David Mamet, but the villain in the film.
No, it's going to eat at me.
Yeah, but at any rate, they catch him, and what happens is
That's the cast.
David Morse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeez. David Morse is spreading the virus around, and they stop him. I think that loop's going to end right there. I think they're going to save civilization. We're kind of seeing it unfold. That's just I'm an optimist though. But watching that movie after post-COVID too is quite
Yeah.
eerie too.
Yeah.
And I think Bruce Willis is great in it too. He's got a lot of vulnerabilities. He brings a lot of rage. There's a lot of
So
nuance to it. Madeline Stone's a beauty.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for you, Robert, in Inception, it stopped spinning.
Sure.
the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Stop spinning.
Ah.
For the 12 Monkey. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I watched 12 Monkeys because we did a podcast dedicated to
the
time travel.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
at this, I watched these movies back to back, 12 Monkeys and the other Bruce Willis one. What was the other Bruce Willis
Looper.
time travel?
Looper.
Looper.
Yeah.
So I watched those back to back, and I preferred Looper over 12 Monkeys.
It's a more fun film.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love 12 Monkeys. One I'm going to bring up two more. One I absolutely love is Safe, starring Julianne Moore. This,
I know nothing about that one.
yeah, directed by Tom Haynes, who did Far From Heaven, and he did May December with also Julianne Moore and
Okay.
Natalie Portman, which I absolutely love. But this is a very bizarre, equally moving film. But the movie is about this woman who starts getting sick from the world. She's getting sick from the materialism, from the smog, and she doesn't know how to handle. Her immune system's just not handled to it. So her husband's really alarmed by it. They go to psychiatrists, they go to doctors, they can't figure out. And then she ends up finding kind of like not like a cult, but like this more, how can I say it? What's the word I'm looking for?
Holistic?
Holistic. Thank you. Yeah, that's what it's a holistic cult, if you will.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
goes in and they start holistically working together and finding natural treatments, and their immune systems start to evolve and get better in this little community. And it's a very great movie. Great
Interesting.
performance by Julianne Moore. And my absolute favorite film in the year is Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage.
And Elizabeth Shue.
Elizabeth Shue, yes.
Yeah.
She was nominated for an Oscar for it. Cage won it. That film is just wrenching and it's heartbreaking. A lot of people say it's depressing. They don't want to watch it again.
Yeah.
And it is. It's kind of a downer, but at the same time, it's so involving and it's such an engaging film where I just loved every moment
They're
of it.
both so self-destructive.
They are in their own ways,
When,
yeah.
when they meet each other, I'm like, this is napalm and oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'm surprised because there's a couple more movies that I had written down here that you guys have not touched on. Even though I do want to say one quick thing about Seven, despite the nature of that film and how graphic and and a bit of a downer it is, it earned $327 million on a $34 million budget. That, in
That's
my book, is
big.
a smash hit.
Yeah.
That's a monster hit.
Yeah.
And so the other movies that we did not touch on, which I'm a little surprised at, Braveheart. Braveheart came out on May 24th, directed by Mel Gibson. I think that might have been his
Second film.
second film.
Because The Man Without a Face was his first.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So he starred in it, directed in it. Big hit, $209 million.
I think I might need to watch this someday.
72 million. Oh. Now, when it comes to historical films, that one is usually brought up in the conversation on historical inaccuracies. The writers basically took events that happened long before they were well documented and did their best to kind of piece things together. But then historians look at the film and go, well, no, this girl would have been 8 who you have marrying William Wallace and stuff. So things didn't quite lineup, but it's an absolute riveting film. Multiple Oscars, won Best Picture, Best Director, and Cinematography, and I might be missing a couple of others.
Joe, about Braveheart, what's interesting, if you watch it again, look at that third act. It's like Passion of the Christ when he's getting tortured. I never thought
Yeah.
about it when you first
Yeah.
watch it, and you go back and watch it again after seeing
Yeah.
Passion, you're like, wow, he kind of went on and recaptured some of that.
And-
Even
ambience.
the English are kind of begging him, just say it.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, just enough, man. Just what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, how many films can you name where the hero finds an ending like that? It was tough to watch. It was brutal.
Spartacus kind of drawn from Spartacus in many ways.
Yeah,
He gets
yeah.
tortured like that in
Yeah.
a way, but not as brutal. But
Yeah, so that was hard to watch. But I saw that movie in theaters, and I remember sitting there as the credits rolled, going, "My God, that was one of the greatest films I've ever seen in my life." I thought it was just spectacular. Along the same lines, I want to talk about Tommy Boy. March 31st.
then in March '95.
Chris Farley and David Spade are in it. David Spade's always asked about Tommy Boy, and the origins of Tommy Boy was Lorne Michaels witnessing the banter between Chris Farley and David Spade. And at the time, Lorne Michaels was producing films, and he said, "I'll produce a film if you guys do that." And they're like, "Do what?" "That thing that you do together." So David Spade says they barely had a script to work with. I laughed when I saw like a writer's credit on Tommy Boy because they kind of made it up as they went along.
Sure.
And they just improvised. And every day they're like, "What are we going to do?" And they said that they would film scenes for Tommy Boy, fly back to New York for Saturday Night Live, go back, film scenes for Tommy Boy. And they were shocked that people responded the way they did to it. Now, it wasn't a monster hit. It only grossed like $32 million on a $20 million budget. I personally think it's a comedy classic, and yeah, it's kind of hit and miss, but there are great lines, great moments. Fat guy in a little coat. I mean, so many great lines and moments. In
Damn
that
near
film.
every high school and probably freshman and sophomore in college saw that movie
Oh yeah,
and knew that movie.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it probably gained traction on video and cable after the fact, but I love that movie, and that's one of the most quoted movies among me and my family members. "Richard, what'd you do?" Or somebody dropped something in my car. "Oh, that's really going to up the resale value on my car." Great lines, great moments. Love Tommy
That's-
Boys.
That's another one of the VHSs that my sister and I would watch on Saturdays
Yeah.
Nice.
all the time.
Were you watching Spanktravision?
How many times have you pounded on a door?
Buddy Wacket.
How many times have you
Buddy
knocked on a
Wacket.
door and went, "Housekeeping"?
Housekeeping.
For the love of God. And talk about a discrepancy between critics and audience. 42% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 90% from audience.
And
That's-
that went up over
that-
the years with critics, because I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah.
even lower. Because
Yeah.
Ebert and all them were snobs towards comedies back then.
Oh, always. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But I love it. I might put it in my top 10, top 20 favorite
You
comedies
Philistine,
of all
how dare you make me laugh?
yeah, yeah.
time. Nick, I don't want to laugh. So Tommy Boy. And then here's sort of, this is my how do I describe this? I feel like this movie is mine. I saw it, I loved it, and I don't know if I've ever met another human being who has seen
Doing
it.
a little Gollum there.
It's my precious. Have you heard of a little movie called Rob Roy?
Oh, yeah. I just watched it again.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I freaking love that movie. Now, I think what it had going against it at the time is very similar to Braveheart,
Braveheart, oh,
in
yeah.
a lot of respects, and they both came out the same year. Those are the movies you can talk about, like, Deep Impact and Armageddon and
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff. Two movies cut from the same cloth, coming out at the same time. Braveheart goes on to win all these awards and make all this money, but I really enjoyed Rob Roy. Liam Neeson is absolutely amazing and heroic in
Tim
it.
Roth got an Oscar nomination
Oh,
for that.
what a villain he
Oh, he
made
is.
in that
Yeah.
movie. He was
Flamboyant,
so,
equally menacing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
there's a moment in the film where Tim Roth rapes Jessica
Oh,
Lange's
gosh, that's a disturbing
character.
scene. Yeah.
But when she gets impregnated by him and confronts Liam Neeson, her husband, he says it's our child and we'll raise him accordingly. And I was so moved by that his character wasn't like, we shall remove that child. No, he's like, it's our child, we'll raise that child. And one of the all-time great sword fights of all time.
That climax is amazing.
Oh, top 10 sword fights, right up there with Errol Flynn, Darth Vader, you name it. Great sword fight. Pretty popular with both critics and audience at like 73% to 75%. And only grossed $58 million on a $28 million budget. But if you have not seen Rob Roy, it is a hidden gem. Check it out. Really enjoyed that film. All right, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Get Shorty, we should say. That's a great one, too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I revisited it. So this follows Pulp Fiction. Travolta supposedly makes a comeback in Pulp Fiction. And then, this is the very next year, Get Shorty comes out. I revisited it recently, maybe a year or so ago, and absolutely loved it.
Oh,
just loved it. And thought, Travolta, I don't know if he's ever been more likable and charismatic than he was in this film.
Absolutely.
He was so I don't want to say arrogant, but he had this confidence, the character
Well, his
did.
name's Chili, and he's just so chill and relaxed, and he's in control.
Nothing
Hey, you're not looking at
bothers
me.
him.
You're not looking at me.
Look at me, yeah.
They made a sequel to that with Chili.
Be Cool.
Be
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Not as good, though.
But, so Get Shorty is
But this kind of
great.
launched him, right? Because he had Pulp Fiction, Get Shorty, and then he did
Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
Face Off.
and then Face Off.
Yeah.
So then you're like, and then Battlefield Earth.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Get Shorty is based on an Elmore Leonard
That's
novel.
true. It's a novel, yep.
So I'm going to throw out my little Forrest Gump moment here. When I was maybe 17, 18 years old, I was hanging out at our local public access TV studio, pretty much running things. And we had a couple that would come in. They did a show called Out to Lunch with Art and Barb. And so they came in to do their show, and I'm there by myself. And so I'm kind of getting things ready for them. And I'm like, how many people are going to be on the set? How many chairs that you need? And they said, oh, it's going to be the two of us. We have one guest. I said, who's your guest? They said, Elmore Leonard. And he came into the studio and sat down and did, 30-minute interview. And I lament the fact that tape does not exist today. It was recorded on 3/4-inch tape. I ended up leaving the studio, and whoever took over, I don't know what happened when the studio closed and what happened to all those tapes. I'd like to think they're in somebody's garage somewhere. I contacted the hosts of the show. They're out in L.A. now, and I said, please tell me you have like a VHS copy of that interview. And they said, no, we don't. So unfortunately, that interview was lost to time. But imagine being 17 years old, 18 years old, and Elmore Leonard's in my studio.
That's awesome.
That was pretty great. That was pretty cool. So, all right. On that note, on my little Forrest Gump note,
The 8th time that Joe got struck by lightning.
and so thanks for listening. Man, 30 years ago, 1995, another great year for films and
The 90s just had. If you
man.
think about that, could be an episode in the future. Just the 90s. What stuff that we got?
I think it's one of the greatest decades. That, the 70s and 50s.
Yeah.
Golden
Well, you're talking to an 80s kid, so Spielberg, 80s. Darn you. All right, so we're going to wrap things up. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks on Hollywood Blockbuster.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Come to the movies, watch Charlie Chaplin, and put some sunshine into your day. Forget the hard times, come to the movies, and try to laugh your troubles away.